All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to just talk about yesterday's fight card, Ring 4, which was an exceptional fight card. I think it lived up to all the hype. None of the fights really disappointed. Maybe Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. wasn't as exciting as we all hoped, but at the same time, I think many people had their reservations whether it would actually excite, especially when you watch Devin Haney's bout against Jose Carlos Ramirez in May. So let's start at which fight should we start at? Let's start at Abdullah Mason versus Sam Noakes, which in my opinion was by far the fight of the night, and I think very well in the contention for fight of the year. This is a fight that I still haven't decided whether I want to see a rematch or not. The fight was exceptional. I thought the fight was exceptional. Abdullah Mason becomes the world's youngest current world champion, WBO world lightweight world champion, and as much as the fight was exciting and entertaining, I believe that they run this fight back again and Abdullah Mason wins it and wins it more convincingly. The reason I say this is because you could tell in the ring that Abdullah Mason was getting the better of Sam Noakes most of the time. Although Sam Noakes had his good moments and fought very valiantly, I think Abdullah Mason is the better boxer and is the better fighter. Therefore, I think if they run this back again with the experience Abdullah Mason gets from this bout, and probably learning from the mistakes he made, he makes lighter work of it. Look, it's easier said than done. I thought Sam Noakes was exceptional. He drew Abdullah Mason into a brawl, which really benefited Sam Noakes, and he showed a tremendous chin. But both of them did. I think they both sort of fought the same fight. Both of them got hit multiple times to the head and to the body, and both men showed a lot of grit and a lot of heart to keep going and then eventually hurt their opponent as well in response. They continued this for all 12 rounds. Like, it was absolutely brutal. But like I said, I felt like in most scenarios, although Sam Noakes did very well, Abdullah Mason just did a little bit better and therefore won the decision, in my opinion. But I guess the other talking point from this fight was actually the scorecards. Now, the scorecards were 113, 115, 111, 117, 113, 115. I think that is dead on. I actually think 113, 115 is dead on. 117, 111 is too far apart. I think when you look at that fight, Abdullah Mason was so long and has so much reach over Sam Noakes. I did find it very surprising that he wanted to be in the pocket, be in the phone booth, and really go to war with Sam Noakes. I thought, if this Abdullah Mason guy was 5 years older, I believe he stays on the outside and boxes Sam Noakes' head off. And that's what I say about if they rematch this fight again, I believe Abdullah Mason takes a lot from that fight and probably doesn't fall into the trap that he did this time. Although it didn't cost him, it's a more risky fight. Yes, it's entertaining, but it's more risky. And those shots from Sam Noakes, you ate him this time, but maybe next time he lands it a bit better. Maybe he learns from this time and lands it a bit better and you don't eat it. That's where the problem comes in, because whilst you're winning, everything you do is great. But once you make the same sort of tactical mistake, in my opinion, of happily brawling with somebody that wants to be in the pocket with you, and it doesn't work and it backfires, you're going to hear it. And I think you get away with it this time, but next time play it a bit smarter, stay on the outside, because the reach advantage and the size advantage, although Sam Noakes is more swollen, Abdullah Mason's the bigger fighter. He should be able to fight on the outside more comfortably, and he's the better boxer. I think he can beat Sam Noakes more convincingly if they rematched it. Therefore, I think they will rematch it because of how exciting it was, but if I was Abdullah Mason, it's not dodging it. I just think there is bigger and better fights out there, especially at lightweight. I mean, Abdullah Mason versus Shakur Stevenson, he's not ready for it, but in a few years' time, if Shakur is still at lightweight, it will be an exceptional fight. They might want it right now. Like I said, I don't think Mason's ready for it. Shakur Stevenson is just insane. He's just too good, in my opinion. But test yourself. If you lose, you've lost to the very best. That's what you can say. You've lost to the very best. You risked it, you lost to the very best. Hey, I'll learn and I'll go again next time. Which sort of brings us on to how I feel about Brian Norman Jr., which is the next fight I want to talk about. In my opinion, the one boring fight of the night. The first few rounds were very exciting. I thought Devin Haney was going to get him out of there. But let's talk about Brian Norman Jr. first, because I don't think it was a very, very good night at all. I think it was awful. I think the scorecards flatter him, but I think the scorecards are correct. If we talk about Brian Norman Jr., I saw somebody last night that was inexperienced at the elite level. I saw a Devin Haney that's fought Jorge Linares, that's fought George Kambosos Jr., that's fought Vasily Lomachenko. You know, even in his loss to Ryan Garcia, these are all elite level fighters, right? You can even go back further and see, you know, Regis Prograis is a world level fighter. And Brian Owen Jr. doesn't have that, in my opinion. Yin Sasaki and Santillan aren't on the level of what Devin Haney has faced in his career. It's not going to Australia for an undisputed bout against George Kambosos Jr., one that's just beaten Teofimo Lopez. It's not beating Vasily Lomachenko, one of the most technically gifted and talented boxers we're ever going to see. Although Brian Norman Jr. has that knockout power, we saw last night that technically and with his footwork, he looked like he was walking in mud and he could not land a shot. And as soon as he got dropped in the second round, he looked like he lost all composure, got very, very frustrated, and started going a bit wild. And that's why I thought Devin Haney was just going to finish the fight. I don't know why Devin Haney was happy to sit on his laurels and just put in reserve and say, well, I've won this on scorecards, we'll go there. I thought Devin Haney could have made a statement and got him out of there in the third round, to be honest, because Brian Norman Jr. lost all composure. There was plenty of openings. The fact that he hit him the way he did in the second round, if you didn't watch the fight, he opens the opportunity, Devin Haney, with a check hook that lands on Brian Norman Jr., wobbles him, and you think, oh, he's all right, but he's on shaky legs. He then follows that up immediately with another left hook. Brian Norman Jr. is so worried he just forgets all about his defense. The hand goes up, and bang, straight through the hole. Devin Haney lands one right on Brian Norman Jr.'s chin. Brian Norman Jr. gets up, but I think there was an opportunity there for Devin Haney to finish the fight. For whatever reason, only Devin Haney will know, he decided to go the 12 rounds. He let him into the fight. Like, I gave Brian Norman Jr. rounds 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10, I believe. That's 5 rounds. And there's also the knockdown that sort of counters that. So you're looking at about 8 rounds to 2. But you could probably find a few more rounds in there that go to Brian Norman Jr., not because he was exceptional, not because he fought a wonderful fight, not because he really turned it on in the second half of that fight. It's because Devin Haney went into reserve and said, I've won this mathematically. I actually don't need to risk anything, which is fine. It's fine. You're up against a big puncher, but the way he was piecing him up early, I think he could have gone for it with no risk. Like, the shot he landed was in the second round. It kind of reminded me of what Rolly Romero did to Ryan Garcia in May. You know, he dropped him really early and then just said, well, I'm going to win this quite easily. Let's not make this an exciting fight. And for Devin Haney, he gets a lot of criticism for being a Tom and Jerry type fighter. And this was an opportunity to put lots of that to bed at your new weight, finish a big puncher off. The guy that was supposed to finish you, somebody that I said, Brian Norman Jr. will finish Devin Haney. And for whatever reason, he said, no, I'll go to the decision. That was the one letdown. That was the one letdown of the night. But in terms of the fight and what Devin Haney did well, I think he proved all the doubters wrong, to be honest with you. He looks magnificent at welterweight. The one thing he didn't show us was whether he can take a punch, but that's not his fucking problem. If you can go the rest of your career without needing to take a punch, go and do that. All right? But it will be brought up when he comes up against a skilled boxer that does land a big hit on him, whether or not he can eat it. Last night, he didn't, but I think Devin Haney's got a lot to go off. You look at Jose Carlos Ramirez, terrible fight, terrible performance. This one here was a bit of that, but a bit of old school Devin Haney, the confidence, the way he stood over Brian Norman Jr. after knocking him down. I thought, we've got Devin Haney of 2019 back here. We've got him back here and he's looking good. And then I think he let himself down in the second half of the fight. But hey, you're world champion. It really doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day. All right, let's talk about Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite fighters in the world. He is exceptional. And I say it over and over and over again. This guy should be a superstar. There's no reason this guy shouldn't be a superstar. I think he's being... You know what it is? He's too nice. I think that's the be end or end all. He does not want to play a villain, and when you do that, it is harder to gain traction. It is. Unfortunately, it is. You look at Canelo, and I always talk about Canelo because Canelo is someone that he broke the barrier between boxing and fandom in a way that very few do. Like we're talking about a Canelo Alvarez that, although couldn't speak English, was able to find fans all around the world because of how good he boxed and his attitude. All right. Canelo has an attitude. All right. He's played the villain. He's happy to shit talk. That is something Jesse Bam Rodriguez is not doing. All right. He isn't doing. And for that, being an American, he's not getting the traction that you see Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney get. These guys are superstars. Lots of it not because of what they do in the ring. All right. Lots of it is not because of what they do in the ring. It is because of their personality. And Americans, they love the personality. And at the moment, I don't want to say Jesse Rodriguez doesn't have a personality. He does. I mean, he's just too nice. He's too nice. He doesn't want to play the villain. And therefore, if his opponent isn't playing the villain, the fight isn't going to be hyped up enough. This guy here has all the skills in the world. This guy has enough skill to become a top 3 pound for pounder. All right. I believe he becomes undisputed at Superfly. I believe he in quick time becomes undisputed at Bantamweight and, you know, hopefully moves up to Super Bantamweight and gets a fight with Inoue or Nakatani. That's a long way away, but you become undisputed in 2 divisions. You're a pound for pound star and you move up 1 more division and start winning world titles. You're even better than that. So for Jesse Bam Rodriguez, in terms of this fight in particular, pieced him apart. The skill that he put on show last night, the most entertaining part about Jesse Bam Rodriguez is I compare him to Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is your defensive boxer, all right? But he's defensive off the back foot. Jesse Bam Rodriguez moves forward, keeps at you all fight, and you can't hit him. His footwork and head movement is insane. The angles he creates to open his opponents up are insane. And you look at that knockout that he secured yesterday, like that's just a clean left hook right on the chin. And Puma Martinez did not see it coming. It's just a beautiful counter, and he's on the front foot all the time. That's what impresses me the most about him, because he is how you attack for 12 rounds and your opponent can't hit you is unbelievable. Fernando Martinez, probably overdone in the preparation to this fight. I think people gave him more credit than he probably deserved. He threw a lot of hooks, both right and left. That was almost all I saw from him. And then you compare that to what Jesse Bam Rodriguez was doing with the straight right, the jab to the head, to the body, the left hook, right? He creates the uppercut, man. Jesse Bam Rodriguez just has such an arsenal to him. When you compare him to what Puma Martinez threw up, was not much at all. So for Jesse Bam Rodriguez, for me, it was an easy night at the office. Another belt. You look at his 2 past fights. What are they? 2 round 10 knockouts? I think they were both 2 round 10 knockouts. He is, like I said, I think he's a superstar in the making. It's just, I think Eddie Hearn needs to really start playing a little bit more into this, because Eddie Hearn's a great talker. And for Jesse Bam Rodriguez, someone that's not a talker, I don't think there's a better promoter to have. You know, he will talk. You know, him or Oscar De La Hoya. You just want somebody there to talk him up, play the villain, and build these fights up. I do think Jesse Bam Rodriguez will suffer, though, because of his opponent level. That is the one thing I will say about him. His opponent level will be the be-all and end-all, all right? That's why I think most people want him to move up 2 weight divisions. It's just such a big move, because I think we all believe he can win fights against your Nick Balls, against your Inoue's, your Nakatanis. You know what, saying that, Nick Ball is 3 weights ahead of him. But Inoue and Nakatani, 2 weights ahead of him. Those are fights that I believe he's very competitive in. Like Jesse Bam Rodriguez is, what is he now? 22-0. Super flyweight champion, right? Soon to be undisputed. And he's 25 years of age. This is one of the most technically gifted boxers I think is going around in the world. There's a reason he is a future pound for pound star, because you can see it. You can see it when he fights how good he is. All right, last fight of the night, and that is David Benavidez and Anthony Yarde. We'll start with Anthony Yarde. I don't want to criticize this guy too much. I don't want to criticize him too much because he's a very good fighter. He is. He's a very good fighter, but he's 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 a British slash European level fighter, a Commonwealth level fighter. Now that's very, very harsh. And the reason I put this to you is because when you look at his resume, there's some very, very good names in there, all right? But the best one that he's beaten is Lyndon Arthur. That's the problem. The great names that are in there, Sergey Kovalev, Beterbiev, and now David Benavidez, although he fought valiantly against all of them, ultimately didn't get past the 9th round against any of them. He got stopped by all of them. And the difference between being a world level fighter and being a British level fighter is how you compete in those bouts, right? Yeah, you might not win, all right? You might not win. I give you another fight as an example. A few months ago, we saw Sam Goodman versus Nick Ball. Sam Goodman lost that fight, but he proved to everybody that he is a world level fighter. Anthony Yarde is losing these fights, and he's not really proving to me now that he is that world level fighter. We gave him the benefit of the doubt in the first one. He went to Russia versus Kovalev, and he's in a fight that was probably too soon for him in his career. Gets unlucky, hurts Kovalev, but ultimately gets stopped. Beterbiev fights valiantly, hurts Beterbiev, ultimately loses, gets stopped quite quickly. They throw in the towel, I think, in the fight. And then you come to David Benavidez. All right, this was the worst pounding he's gotten of his career, and you'd think of his age, with his experience, this would be his best performance at a world title level. Now, one part that I do understand, and you do have to understand, is David Benavidez, Artur Beterbiev, and Sergey Kovalev are some of the best fighters that we've seen at light heavyweight, right, of all time. These guys are exceptional, exceptional fighters. David Benavidez is someone that I think can become 3-division world champion, if not more. He's exceptional, and we've seen people win world titles for far less. And that's the one part that I think you got to understand for Anthony Yarde is Anthony Yarde fights in a different era, in a different weight class. He probably does become world champion. He probably does. I think the athletic ability that he holds is enough to say he's good enough for a world title. He's in a division of just otherworldly fighters. Like, these guys are just future legends, incredible, incredible fighters. You look at Beterbiev, what he did at amateurs and at professional. You look at other people that he hasn't even fought that he could fight in Dimitri Bivol. Like, he could not get a harder run at it. But that's basically all I have to say for Anthony Yarde. I do think there is an opportunity for him to go back to the drawing board. I would like to see him keep going, fight someone between your Lyndon Arthur and your David Benavidez, right? Whoever that might be, whatever name they can come up with. Let's talk about David Benavidez. Now, I did just make a video talking about David Benavidez and his move to cruiserweight, so I would recommend you go and check that out. But as we all saw in the interview, he did say he's going to move up to cruiserweight, and he's going to take on Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez on May 2nd. But let's talk about this fight, because I've made plenty of videos talking about what he's going to do in the future. Like I said, go and check that video out. As far as the here and now, David Benavidez last night is proving that every time he moves up in weight, he looks better. We knew he was weight drained at super middleweight. There was a few fights there where he got the belt ripped away from him because he could not make weight. He moves up. People say he might struggle with the weight at light heavyweight, which is not a fucking issue, all right? He is killing it at light heavyweight. What he did to David Morrell was very, very good. What he did yesterday to Anthony Yarde was even better. Like, that was scary. Anybody at light heavyweight, or in fact now cruiserweight, should be scared of this guy. I think we're seeing why Canelo didn't want to fight this guy. I think Canelo still would have been competitive, but you look at what happened against Crawford, and I think there's a reason this fight never got made. There is a reason this fight never got made, and because this guy here is every bit of a Mexican monster. That is the best fitting nickname possibly in boxing, because this guy is fucking phenomenal. It's one thing to hit as hard as he does, right? And you look at him just physically. Yeah, he's big, but he's not the muscle guy that Anthony Yarde is. The power that he hits with, from the reach that he has, like the full extension of his arms, and you couple that all up with this lightweight type speed, that's fucking scary for anybody. That part in the fight where he held Anthony Yard's fucking head and hit him with 19 consecutive shots in a clinch, right? I'm glad the ref didn't step in for that. That's scary. That is fuck that, bro. That is mad by David Benavidez. And you couple this all up with breaking Anthony Yard's nose, breaking his spirit, and just destroying him. And he tops it all up with a beautiful left hook that the referee had no choice but to step in and stop. It was unbelievable. Even that one round, what round was it? I can't remember if it was in the final round or round 6. Anthony Yard hurts David Benavidez, and you could see him ginger backing away. And I thought, he's in trouble here. And by the end of that round, Anthony Yard was in a corner and David Benavidez was pummeling him, right? And that is the separation of being a good fighter and a great fighter, right? He was in trouble. By all money, he was in trouble. And everybody knew that. Anthony Yard knew that. And to end the round with Anthony Yard losing that round shows you just how good he is. Like, they fought 7 rounds. Anthony Yard has been in multiple world title fights at light heavyweight, and I don't think you could give Anthony Yard a round. I think that's how good David Benavidez fought yesterday. All right, guys, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Well, you know, we didn't even talk about that incident on the floor, eh? I have no idea what you do in that situation. I mean, you look at it and you say, yeah, he probably deserved to be deducted 2 points because he hit a flawed opponent, but at the same time, there was no chance Anthony Yard was getting up off the floor and surviving that fight. So it was a bit of an odd one. I respect Anthony Yard because Anthony Yard could have stayed on the floor. Oh, I can't continue. He's hit me whilst I can't continue. No contest. But he didn't. He got up. He died by the sword. He risked it all. Came up short. But you got to respect him because there's people with far less character that would have stayed on the floor and bitched out of that fight when they knew that they were in big trouble. Anthony Yard got up and said, I'm here and now. We're going to run it. I might lose, but, you know, at least I'll die valiantly. And then I respect Anthony Yard for that. David Benavidez, what are you going to do, mate? You hit him on the floor. You get deducted 2 points. It was not changing any way of that fight. It literally made no impact. As far as the referee, I think he made the right decision because to stop the fight for that would have been horrendous. He couldn't have stopped it, but at the same time, yeah, Anthony Yard was done. So that is my podcast of the fights. Let us know what you guys think. I have started to build this new setup. I hope at some point we can do live streams, so we'll wait and see on that one. I am going to try and start doing some more different content, longer podcasts, like I said, live stream. So we'll see what happens, but we are building. I want to get to 300 subscribers by the end of the year. It'd be great if we got there, but we'll see what happens. Like the video. Let us know in the comments about anything that we spoke about today. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let us know. I'm out of here, guys. See ya.